Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Gathering of Gachas, the only podcast that focuses exclusively on the games your parents don't want you to play. I'm Galen, the SoundGuy Firestone.
I'm Ranakel.
And I'm Dez.
Boy, howdy,
How's
did we
it
have an
going,
interesting time getting this started today. How many times did we try to get you synced, Dez?
Discord ate my clap. Was it 3 or 4 times?
It ate it 3 times.
3 times.
So, plenty.
Plenty indeed. But we did it. We made it. We're here. We live.
We do live.
So it would seem.
So it would seem. How's everybody doing today?
Pretty well. I've been, playing some 14 as usual.
As usual. We got our
Playing
first Savage clear not too
other
long ago.
stuff. Yeah. And there's going to be another patch rolling in now 2 weeks and a bit more.
Well, we
2
had
weeks.
better stop talking about 14 because before this becomes a 14 podcast, which, to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't hate the idea of. But that's me talking right now because I play 14 and not Gachas anymore. That
And
said,
State of the Realm is a very good podcast anyway, if you're looking for one.
fair enough. With that, let's go ahead and roll right into our FFBE recap of 2 weeks now, I guess. Oh boy, did a lot of global exclusive happen.
Exactly. Not 1, but 2 global original banners with 3 units total. 2 of them having 2 forms, so that's 5 units-ish, I suppose. Depending on if you count Neo Visions as 1 or 2 units. Anyway, let's start from the start with Yoshikiri, or Buff Ninja Oron Wannabe.
Yeah, so I was a little surprised when I saw his kit because he didn't play like anything remotely what I was expecting.
Yeah, no, you see him being a ninja, you expect, well, he's going to be a good evade tank, and he's going to chain, and he's going to hit faces physically. But no, they had to go special, as is reflected by his TMR and STMR and vision card. So Seiran Shuriken is a throwing weapon with 120 spirit and 40% spirit.
That's a lot of spirit.
Yeah, it's like he's made for it.
Interesting.
And his STMR is 80% spirit and the spirit through double hand. However, they announced spirit through double hand and everybody was really happy. Then they revealed it was only 25% and boo. That's not a lot at all.
No, 25% is a little weird.
Yeah.
A bit.
Does it get made up for in another one of his abilities, or does that actually make sense somewhere, somehow, some way?
Well, his vision cards also give 25% spirit through double hand.
So the map they're clearly meant to be used together in that regard.
I suppose it's still weird, especially if you want to use the spirit bonus on a non-Neo Vision unit, since they can't equip vision cards.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, the vision card in question, Virtual Training, is pretty good actually, because on top of the high spirit, 20% spirit, and spirit through double hand, it also has a ribbon effect. On a
Wow.
vision
I like those.
card. Yeah. So
Anytime you
that's
can get a
really
ribbon
solid.
with better effects on it is a good thing. I stand by that
especially
statement.
on a new slot.
Yeah. Like, just plain ribbon is very good in and of itself, but ribbon plus other stuff is just awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, pretty much. And these days, you really kind of do need more if you're going to, make something attractive for people to use.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that fits the bill because it's one of the good vision cards since it's specialized. Most of the vision cards that aren't considered all that great generally are because they're trying to do too many things at the same time.
Right.
Makes sense.
This is just a great vision card for your support units, which makes sense because that's what Yoshikiri is.
That does make sense. Well, again, it would be weird if the vision card wasn't good for the person who the vision card comes from. Like, so far, we haven't really seen that.
Yeah, exactly. And this will be something that counts for all units in these 2 banners, but overall, Gumi has managed something very special with these units, which is maybe not what some people expected, because overall, they are not completely broken and overpowered.
Good.
They're not completely useless. They're balanced.
We like
I
balance.
love it when I hear that. That's a great word.
Yeah. So, when it comes to Yoshikiri's kit, he can help imbue ice on water. He can buff stats, bestow human killers to allies.
Okay.
Provide mitigation. Up to an 90% physical mitigation for one ally on a skill that is on a turn cooldown and costs his LB gauge. So they're not going crazy on that, but he does have this ability. Also 2 charges of Mirage, but also on a cooldown. Overall, he has mostly a defensive support abilities on his main form, with the exception of the human killer buff, of course, which is called You Noob, You Lose. Because
Really?
he's a gamer ninja, yes. Yeah, as he says in the scenario, he only does his ninja job to gain money to fuel his crippling video games addiction.
Are you serious? This is a character concept?
Yes.
I hate. All of a sudden, I hate Yoshikiri.
I mean, to give you an idea, one of his cooldown, which grants a ton, one of the biggest barriers in the game, I believe, 7,000 HP,
Wow.
plus immunity to a lot of things, and the ability to triple cast these abilities, which you can normally double cast only. So, the cooldown in question is called Hikikomori, which is the Japanese type of complete shut-ins that do nothing but stay in the room and play video games.
AKA me since COVID hit.
Pretty much, except that's being socially responsible.
Yes.
And the triple cast in question is called Wombo Combo.
Oh, for God's sake. It's like Gumi just took a whole bunch of memes and made them a character. I'm very annoyed by this. This is irrationally angry, is what this is. This is just making me mad.
Oh yeah, and like a lot of things have these sort of names. His ability to increase LB damage for all allies is called Button Mash, for instance. His LB is called Star Hurricane, which is pretty normal.
Okay, yes. This is seriously like the hello, fellow kids kind of situation. What the hell?
I mean, for the Star Hurricane, it makes sense that it has a normal name because it is voice acted, since he is a CG, a global original unit.
In English?
Yes.
Huh.
And so is Elena, we're going to return to a little bit later. So, when he brave shifts, he gains more offensive support abilities, with things like bigger water imperils, machine killers, and that one is on both sides. But he has 2 different kinds of big stat buffs. He also gets a much bigger LB boost, which can increase LB damage for all allies by 150%. It's pretty much useful for anybody using their LB except Tifa.
Okay, why not Tifa?
Because she has a bigger
her
buff on her own.
250%.
Okay, fair enough.
Which is why she's broken, by the way. And his most defining characteristic is that he also has some attacks. Bolting Strikes Chain Family, because it's a global original. And either Water or Ice Elemental with some decent damage that's magic type, scaling on Spirit, and being resisted by the enemy's defense.
Okay.
So that's kind of a big mishmash. The most important thing to remember in that situation is that imbues work and physical killers work. And yeah, that's Yoshikiri. He is doing decent magic-ish damage while being pretty magically tanky and giving some pretty diverse set of support kit that don't necessarily do things more intensely than the units we already have, but it's pretty decent when it comes to slot economy.
Okay.
And we like slot economy. Slot economy is good.
Yeah. Then we have a 5-star base, 7-star maximum unit in Itachi, also global original.
Okay.
Kinda the antagonist of the story with Yoshikiri.
Okay, that's actually good because the last time we had that was Elena's bad guy and she ended up being underwhelming. How's this one?
This one, well, it's interesting because she's only a pawn in the plot of a bigger bad guy, which we haven't seen and we don't know who it is yet. But basically somebody that uses dark crystals to exploit the negative emotions of people such as Itachi's desire for revenge against a rival ninja clan.
Interesting. So not having a primary bad guy, that means that they're kind of poking at an ongoing story then.
Yes, and also poking at a meta story, because the last chapter of the story event is Reagan picking up the books because Laswell told him about it.
Huh.
And nobody realizes who is the author, even though there's this one guy that is very insistent about getting everybody's opinion about the books.
I mean, it could be just an overly busy critic.
No, not with a subtle pen name like Miles L. Mole.
Say that again? Is this...
Which is one of the people that work... one of the people in Season 2, right at the end part of it, was named El Mole.
Was this the same guy who wrote, what's her name's comic?
Yeah, it's the same series, and Elena does take a part in it.
Got it. Okay. I think your accent kind of ate the character there. I wasn't sure who you were talking about for a moment.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, no, that happens a lot. No problem. So, talking about Itachi and her TMR, pretty good. 150 attack on a throwing weapon that guarantees to be able to inflict disease, which is interesting because that, given that it's not a crippling status, it can affect a fair amount of bosses.
Okay.
And then it autocasts also Secret of the Hisame, which natively increases ice damage by 10%, which can be nice on some units, I imagine.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the STMR, Restoration of the Hisame, which is very good because it's 80% flat attack and 50% true dual wield. And for Itachi specifically, it lowers MP cost. Solid set of stats.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
As for her kit, she is a breaker mostly. She does have some bolting strike, chain moves, but not with huge modifiers. And she's better used for, say, her 85% one-turn all break, that she can use right at the start, but only once per battle. Or 80% full breaks otherwise. And she doesn't have that much of a strong utility besides that. Killers are nice, human and beast killers 100%.
Yeah, we like those.
Also self-imbue with ice.
Okay.
But not that diverse a kit, I suppose.
Okay.
If you need a break, however, she's great. And it's good that at least she can fill this one niche. Oh yeah, and she can also, as part of a full cast, do one stack of Mirage on everybody in the party, which is always useful.
Oh yeah.
So that's Itachi. Moving on to Starlight Elena, which came the week after and is indeed part of the same story event.
Right.
Since her and Yoshikiri do meet.
Interesting.
So TMR is Astrea Aurora.
Okay, so that's a better version of her Astrea sword.
Exactly, with a little bit less stats, 140 attack, 120 magic, but 50% true dual wield for attack and magic.
Okay.
Of note, Elena's Astrea could only be equipped by Elena herself. It can also be equipped by Starlight Elena.
That does make sense.
Yeah, and Astrea Aurora can be equipped by anyone, but the true dual wield is only for Elena and Starlight Elena.
Okay.
Her STMR is probably the biggest reason to pull for her. It's 150% true double hand for attack and magic both. So that's halfway between the formerly highest increases in attack true double hand and Cloud's STMR. So that's for attack and magic, which is amazing for hybrids, and is still the highest single magic true double hand materia, even in JP at the time.
Okay.
So it's useful even just for mages. As for her vision card, a Joe successor, it's obviously raising attack and magic as the main stats.
Right.
With up to 50% on top of the base stats.
Okay.
And then it also has as a final effect 50% LB damage increase for female units.
Okay.
For what?
Sure.
For what units?
Female. Ladies.
Females.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So, as far as her kit goes, I was worried when she was announced that it would be extremely complicated, given that OG Elena certainly had a whole set of paths.
Yeah, she had a whole thing.
Yeah, but no, actually, it's pretty straightforward. She can self-imbue and imperil water or light. And then she can chain Auriel Ray with a low modifier, or do actual damage either with Bolting Strike or with Stardust Ray. And that's pretty much it. She does have some skills that increases the chaining modifiers for her other skills. Like, for instance, if you use her LB, her skills do more damage for the next 4 turns. But it's really straightforward, pretty much as simple as Cloud.
Okay.
And her Brave Shift form is kind of similar, except that she does have the option to go either True Dual Wield or True Double Hand. She's getting passives for both.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and then, it's pretty much also either a Bolting Strike or a Stardust Ray chain. The Bolting Strike have innate elements instead of having to imbue them.
Okay, that has its ups and downs.
Yeah. Which is why it's good that she can shift from one form to the next.
Yes.
One thing of note is that she can only Brave Shift starting on turn 2. And it lasts for a certain amount of turns, I believe. I haven't double check since I do have her, but I don't have her at EX +1.
Okay.
So I can't brave shift yet. I'll be sure to tell if she can only stay in her brave shifted forms for a certain amount of time, but if that's the case, that would be surprising, since generally the Envy Awakening have temporary brave shift, while the Envy Natives have a more definitive brave shift. Anyway, that's it for Elena as well, and on her banner was also released another unit which is not a global original tour.
Okay.
And is an awakening of a unit we've had for a while now, which is Loren.
Yay, Loren!
And she's amazing, probably the best price on the banner, dealing comparable damage to Elena, while also being the game's best breaker. I mean, Van still does have some unique utility, but...
I mean,
no,
Loren
amazing.
being the game's best breaker is something I'm 100% okay with.
Yeah.
I've always liked her.
Yeah, she's great, and her Brave Shift's appearance is very different. They generally don't go that far with the Brave Shifted sprite for awakened units.
I remember seeing this going, wow, I don't actually like this because her in a dress just feels weird to me, but
the animations are pretty stellar too.
That's good to know. I mean, I get the impression someone really likes her, and they've just never found a way to organically make her work in the story.
Yeah. And it's a shame because a lot of people, me included, like her as well.
Yeah, I absolutely adore Loren. I wanted her for the longest time and never got her.
I suppose one of her main problems when it comes to viability, apparently, is her status in JP as a reward rather than a normal banner unit.
Yeah. She was with that EX point system, basically. My brain had it oh, it's a free unit because I was spending heavily anyway. No, it's not free at all. It's the exact opposite of free. You literally had to pay to get her.
Yeah, exactly.
You weren't paying to buy her, but you couldn't get her on a pull at all. And oh boy, that just, again, shows how twisted up my mentality was when I was playing FFBE. I actually didn't like that they changed that because I was spending heavily anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. So, as far as her landmark skills go on her main form already, so even without shifting her, she has skills like Peerless Blade Shield Crusher, which lets her break everybody by 85% on all stats, and then autocast that again on the next turn, on the turn after, and the turn after that.
Oh, wow!
Yeah, so that's the perfect break for bosses that dispel themselves, for instance.
Yeah! That's really cool.
Yeah, and if you count the duration, it's a cooldown, and it's on a 7-turn cooldown. So the last one is 4 turns later, last 3 turns. You can have full uptime on this. You just don't have the recast for the last 3 turns.
Right. So if something dispels during that period, you're out of luck, but...
Unless you use, for instance, Blade of Singularity, which removes all buffs, breaks by 85% all enemies on all stats, and also is a finishing move with a 105 times modifier.
Oh, Loren! Oh, Loren.
Yeah, and that's her main
Seems
distinct feature as a breaker. It's that she breaks like the best of them, but also deals crazy high damage.
Yeah, I'm okay with this.
Yeah, as a Stardust Way chain, no less.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. That's
And
right in the
then-
meta. I love it.
Exactly. And then you can Brave Shift her as well. So, her Brave Shifted form, it does have breaks, but these are poor, paltry, miserable little 80% full breaks.
Only
Which can be cast
80%.
on demand. Yeah, no, that's ridiculous. Trash unit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Most seriously, her main source of damage at this point is Twin Blade Dance, which is a backloaded enormous Stardust Way chaining move.
Okay.
And then she can also imbue herself with wind and thunder. But the imbue lasts for a short while and still longer than her 2 times cooldown move, which imperils lightning, wind, and light by 130%, which is great, for this turn and not even the next, which is not so great. So it's basically as part of a big burst that you'd want to use that.
Right.
And then her LB wrecks faces with high damage and increased modifiers for her moves.
Good.
Especially her Twin Blade Dance, which is her main DPS move, which gets a solid increase in modifier that applies twice.
It applies twice.
Yeah, because it's coded as the 9 first hit doing a 3 times modifier and the last hit doing a 100 times modifier. So if it increases by 15 times, it's for both the first hit, the first 9 hits, and then again on the last hit.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
So that's Loren. She's very good.
She sounds like it.
Basically, I pulled on Starlight Elena's banner for 2 reasons, none of which were Starlight Elena.
That's
But
hilarious.
you got Starlight Elena
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, I mean, I did get Starlight Elena, and I'm going to use her. I'm happy I've got her.
Yeah.
But I'm more happy that I've got the ability to get her STMR somewhere down the line, and I'm happy I got 1 Loren out of it. Not
There you
enough to fully EX plus 1 her, but I bought the bundle for that.
Okay. Well, on top of that, like, it's Loren, so she's an older unit. I believe you could just UOC her, right?
Yes, I can. But I'm not ready to spend 30 or 40 UOC just to get shards.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So, then there's also something they did that's interesting regarding the stages that happen throughout this event, because the story stages were pretty normal with the global original story. But there's also the farm stages, in particular the pog farm, as it is called these days.
Right.
Which can be used to level some of the abilities of characters. And we have our global exclusive pog, which is literally just the base item symbol with GL written in the middle. Which does suggest is going to be used for all of the global units. And indeed is useful for both Yoshikiri and Starlight Elena. And one thing that's interesting is that they gave some of those to us from other sources. Like the daily easy stage drop some, you get some from rewards for the elemental battle event with Elena specifically.
Okay.
So it's easier even for people that don't really want to farm the pug bosses, which can be pretty tough. They have still an initial source of those.
Right.
However, to compensate for that, the farm stage in itself is much harder than those before, and people are having a hard time clearing it on turn 1. People actually even submitted bug reports because the boss, which is Itachi...
How dare the content actually be content? What?
It's not quite like that, because it's something that is intended to be farmed, and yet the break gauge of the boss on turn 1 literally can't be broken even by a Rosa multicasting barrage, with the right weapons of course, and so it's easier at this point for people that are very well geared to just burst her without breaking her gauge.
Okay. How difficult is that?
kinda tough. I can't really do it on turn 1. I do have to survive for 1 turn, which isn't that difficult, but it does make things a little bit more messy for, again, something that is intended to be farmed.
Right.
I don't have anything against a break gauge for bosses, but for content that should be cleared and can need to be cleared 10 or 20 times to get what you need, that can be a bit rough.
Yeah, I can see that. That's fair.
I do appreciate the fact that for those that can't or don't want to do that, there is the alternative with the other sources of those pogs.
Yeah.
Talking about bosses with break gauge, we have one.
Okay.
And it's a familiar face. It's Intangir.
Oh, okay. Hi, Intangir again.
Yeah. It's not really a new banner or anything. It's just that now Scorn of Intangir has a new difficulty level at Extreme.
Oh, okay.
And
so they rescorned the Scorn?
Yeah.
Lazy.
Basically. But now he has a break gauge, but the same fundamental mechanics about how he goes to sleep, then goes into deep sleep, and then you have to wake him with a certain type of attack and so on.
Right.
Similar mechanic, just now tailored to be able to kinda resist envy units. Which means, of course, that if you have a proper team and a couple of Tifas, you can go right through it.
Right.
Because, of course, why not?
Yeah.
You do need to survive a preemptive attack. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Intangir, and as far as the rewards go, we get Enhancer plus.
Lazy! Alright, what does this one do? I assume the exact same thing as before, but
172 attack, 127 magic, 10% HP, 30% magic.
Sure.
It's plus. And next, as far as events go, we have the return of Dark Visions. Again.
Yay.
It's the 6th one.
Okay.
And so it's got the same spread of physical and magical stages, with some element configuration that seems to favor the latest units, and it's nothing we haven't really seen before. Last boss is Dark Asura. I don't know if it has the normal Asura mechanics, because I haven't fought in Dark Visions quite yet. I'm probably going to have to start soon. But yeah, it's Dark Visions, and looking at that, all I can think of is As I Miss You boss rush battles.
Yeah, did mention that before.
Yeah, and they were supposed to alternate between the two, but we've had 2 Dark Visions in a row. Let's please not make it 3.
Let's please not make it 3.
I will say, though, that given that this one has more Neovision banners in, it does provide a bit more diversity in this way, at least.
That's good.
Whereas the one before, it was, do you have enough Tifa to punch through everything? Also, Cloud is here.
Sure, why not? I, as someone who played FF7 Remake and actually mained Tifa, I'm very happy that Tifa's the solution to everything, because that was basically the way I played that video game.
And she still is. I believe she starts meeting her betters when Madame Edel comes out.
Okay.
Which I am kind of okay with.
Yeah, if anyone's going to top a Neovision Awakened Tifa, it may as well be someone original like Edel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And last but not least, we have coming up in a few hours as time of recording, the new value Step Up Summon.
Okay.
So It's just a banner with no specific focus, but there are 4 steps at 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and 5,000 lapis.
Right.
With an increasing amount of summons. And once you get higher in the step, you have a higher neovision chance. It starts as 1.25, which is the normal chance as time.
Right.
At the time. But then second step is 1.5%, third step is 2%, fourth step is 2.5%. And you get a rainbow guaranteed on every step, 2 rainbow guaranteed on the last 2 steps, and NV EX 1/10 ticket. Basically, if you have 10 of those, you can summon and get an NV guaranteed on the last step.
Okay.
So it's kinda nice, but not great.
Yeah.
If you want a Neovision, any Neovision, that's cool, but...
Yeah, generally speaking, this is only going to be good for new players who only have Tifa, or however that's going to play out.
Yeah, it's just, do you want a Neovision, any Neovision? Are you desperate, but do you still have resources somehow? There you go.
Yeah.
But it's not really something that's that exciting.
Okay.
Still, I'm not unhappy that it's there, especially given that we've had a reasonable amount of lapis so far.
Yeah, I've been hearing that resources have actually been pretty alright lately.
Yeah.
Decent amount of free stuff.
Except for Gale.
Except for Gil.
No,
other than that Gil Towers thing.
And I'm not being very truthful and honest about this one, because we did have a few things that were done in that regard.
Okay.
With Gil Turtle Towers that were distributed.
Right.
And there was also the fact that the Gale map now grants towers instead of just families.
Oh,
which
wow.
means that each map is not worth 2.5 million Gil.
That's
which is
good.
A lot.
Yeah. It still doesn't quite cover my expenses yet, but then in a move of desperation, as I reached an amount of Gil that was as low as 3 digits, I looked at my inventory and realized that I had 40 million Gils worth of unspent currency from past events. I am bad at doing the banners at the raid banners and the like at the last part of events that are about to end.
Oops.
Hey, at least I have 40 million Gils now.
Yeah.
And on that bombshell, I believe we can move towards Arknights.
Wow, we actually got through FFBE shockingly quick. I'm happy about this. Okay.
I tried and succeeded.
So Arknights just completed its second contingency contract, Operation Barrenlands. As a personal note, this was the first that I fully completed. I actually did 100% of the... I actually did 100% of the rewards. I did not accomplish that the first time out.
I didn't either. I got very close the first time, but not quite. I think I got to 17.
Limitations for the past events? Was it just time or was it difficulty?
It was difficulty. This one was a lot more, I don't want to say reasonable, because it was still quite challenging, but it was challenging in a completely different way, and one that I could actually understand. Basically, I'm going to try to explain the main map and its primary thing. There were 2 lanes enemies could go through. One of which was a standard lane, and then the other one had a fire debuff on there that would actually damage whatever stands on that square, be it your character or the enemy. This fire debuff actually, I believe, went through defense. So unless you picked challenges which stacked the enemy's hit points, it would still always do quite a bit of damage, regardless of their setup, which is wonderful. And then there was just one square that if you had, it increased push power, so if you had a pusher with significant push power, aka some builds of Shaw or Fire Eater Spec 3, sorry, F Eater. I keep calling her Fire Eater. It's not her real name. Skill 1, Spec 3, they could actually shove any enemy, including the heavy ones, all the way up to that top fire lane. So, basically from there, for this one, I was able to suss out that the best strategy was actually just a hard tank in the bottom, or sorry, a hard tank on the top lane behind the fire, where the fire stopped, and just knock the enemies up there to let them burn to death.
Mm-hmm. You did have to block them, that because some of them had invisibility, so you did have to block them to make sure that the pusher could go north, right? And you also potentially, if they got in some hits on the blocker, then you wanted to make sure that they were
they had some kind of survival.
Yeah, some kind of survival. But,
in my case, what I did was I had Siege as my blocker, and then I had Myrtle just on the field somewhere generating CP and passively healing all of my vanguards, which means frickin' siege. So yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was actually really cool. By the way, don't forget, for those who've played, for every one of the fancy bounties you get that unlock challenges, if you go back to the contingency contract, even after it's over, you get your supplies for that. You get your rewards for that in particular as well. So if you haven't done that already, go do that and get your free stuff, because I got a lot of free stuff. I'm happy that I got free stuff.
Stuff is good.
I will say I didn't quite get through all of the rewards this time, because I actually missed some dailies, just forgot.
Yep, that happens. It's an intense event.
But I did get through Contingency 18, which was the highest difficulty that gave rewards as far as that part of the event went.
Right. Yeah, the main stage you got rewards up to contingency level 18. So 18 challenges worth of stuff, and then you got rewards up to and then every day up to risk 8, I believe it was. So I was able to do every day at risk 8 plus risk 18, which felt really good to actually get done. So this one also had an interesting one, and I kind of hate this and love this at the same time. If your support units, if your friend units were used by someone else, you would actually get a marker on your friend unit saying the highest risk that unit was taken to.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
So I had I think it was an 8 next to mine, because someone took either my Neon or my Indra. All of my units actually got use. Neon, Indra, and Siobi. All of the units I was sharing got use.
Awesome.
And I believe I had an 8 next to mine. I think I saw someone with a 13. I think it was about the highest on my friends list that I saw.
I know I got a 9, I want to say. Something like that, 9 or 10.
Something like that. Who were you sharing?
I don't recall off the top of my head. I'd have to look.
Okay. So yeah, that was a really neat feature. So if your friend units are good, they got used.
I think. Oh, I did share Helliger. I know. I don't remember who else, but he was one of them.
Yeah, Helliger was a lot better for last CC. This one, he was still. Yeah. I mean, obviously, he's going to hit like a truck no matter what happens, but he isn't quite as useful because this one's more about hard tanking than it is delaying.
Yeah. Than about damage, because on this one, even if your units didn't do so much damage, the fire would do a lot of damage. Yeah. And there are obviously going to be other ways to do it. That would include, having your units do pretty much all the damage, but not required by any means to use those methods.
Correct.
I used a very similar one to what Galen did.
Space is saying he knows he was sharing Asia, Blaze, and Listgarb, a completely different list than what I put up, especially since I only have one of those units, so that's the 5-star.
I think maybe Blaze was one of the ones that I was sharing too. I think I have the same list up now. I'll check.
Yeah, I know I haven't changed mine, but I thought that was a really neat feature. Give some love to the friend units.
And you could kind of see, which ones are more useful to people as well. So
yeah, mine were even around the board. I actually had like 3, 4, and 3 or something like that. Like everyone was like, people just liked my units just sort of generally. I didn't have anyone like everyone going for Neon or something, despite her being the limited unit. Anyway, but next up things get weird.
Ooh.
So far, this game has really resisted doing the schedule change thing. It's followed very closely the Hong Kong schedule. That has now changed.
We have skipped some of their banners and stuff, but we've had things like in the same order.
Yeah, the event order has always been the same.
Yeah.
No longer. It's time skip land. So, being pushed ahead like 4 events, a KFC event of all things that we're not getting, Dark Knight's Memoirs of the First Anniversary, we were instead getting Children of Ursus, which was the first post-First Anniversary event in Hong Kong. So
you just have over, what, 1 month, 2 months worth of content?
4 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 4 months.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's a time skip, all right.
Yep. Now, thankfully, because of the way this game is, it's not really a meta shift or anything like that. The 6-star on the banner is Rosa, and she is a unique quote-unquote sniper, and I put that in heavy air quotes because, she is the first sniper who can't hit anything at low range, which actually makes her the opposite of Schwarz. And her whole thing is finding the heaviest enemy, the heaviest, like, weight-wise enemy, and actually sticking them to the ground. She harpoons them in place and traps them there and binds them for a period of time with her skill.
It sounds pretty good.
Yeah, she's a setup unit. Her and Siobi work really well, because Siobi's whole thing, as I mentioned when we talked about her in depth, is she has knives that absolutely slaughter that exact type of unit. So Rosa's very unique. She doesn't play like any other sniper in the game, and thus getting her early doesn't actually affect the meta in any meaningful way. It's just something really cool to have and something neat to play with. And she hits hard. We like that.
Yeah.
Hitting hard is good.
Hitting hard is good in this game.
Sounds like the kind of game where skipping 4 months ahead is not nearly as impactful as it would be in, say, an FFB.
Yeah, an FFBE, that is a gigantic meta shift. In Arknights, so far, they've been very good about keeping the game very balanced.
Yeah, and I don't see any indication that that's going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, especially since usually it's a very slow game. So my fear about getting W early, thankfully, was unfounded, even if we are getting things early, just in a very different context. But again, that's fine,
Yeah.
It does mean prediction can be a bit less certain now.
Yeah, Geister is saying in chat, units that were awesome 6 months ago were still awesome in Arknights, which is nice. Yeah, exactly. I still use launch units every freaking day.
Oh yeah, me too. Like Siege is someone that almost never leaves my team.
Yeah, exactly. Siege never leaves my team. Exu's pretty much always there. Hoshi's been benched more often now, sadly, because Neon is...
Now that you have Neon.
The one case of power creep I've seen in this game. Like, she's it.
I would argue that that's not even really power creep.
It's not, because when I need more than one tank, they're the ones I use. It's Hoshi and Neon.
And also, Hoshi and Neon have very similar, stats. So it's not like, Neon takes Hoshi out or anything. For instance, if you needed somebody that had higher defense and, physical attack on them, then you use Hoshi.
Yeah. Well, no, you absolutely don't use Hoshi because Copper Seal.
That's not physical, that's magic.
Well, you're doing magical to them, but it ramps up Neon's defense to absolutely absurd degrees. We're talking about two different things. We're not. I'm talking about incoming physical damage. You're talking about outgoing, right? I think that's where we got confused.
Well, I mean, partially, yes.
Okay.
Like, but
I
that
mean,
was my
honestly,
point,
I don't
right?
use either of them as damagers, but yes, I understand your meaning.
Yeah.
Yes, in terms of damage, if you need physical damage, Hoshi's way out in front on that score, that's for sure. And then poor Saria, when it comes to damage, does Bupkis, but she heals instead.
Yeah, and I used Saria on the last CC as well, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I used Saria on this one for, because one of the challenges that gives 3 points is no ranged units, which means no regular healers, which means my heal power was almost entirely heal tanks. So Saria and Gummy, once again, the dream team, healing everybody.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, CC is just so interesting. Also with, anyway, getting back to topic, back to Rosa here. Also with this we're getting all the first anniversary quality of life improvements. So we're getting
awesome.
We're getting updates to the base. So we're going to have one button turn-ins. So we can actually do our trading post turn-ins with one button now. We're getting auto refresh on the crafting stations. So the factories. So they're going to just pump things out. We don't have to worry about every once in a while having to refresh their numbers, because that was an unnecessary step. We're getting the updated info screen, which includes past story events. We're getting a playback machine for that. Past side stories and events. We're getting the achievement system, which includes tickets for Indra and Vulcan on there. Yeah, we're just getting a ton of stuff.
Yeah, good stuff too.
Yeah. Big old quality of life improvements on top of an event 4 months early and getting Rosa early. So,
like though,
we like all of this. I'm actually happy with this news because it doesn't make me feel like something's like wrong or sad or scary or anything like that. It all feels good. Yeah, looking forward to Arknights. By the time this episode goes live, it will almost definitely be the event will be live, and I'm probably going to stream this on Tuesday. So if you're listening to this episode and I've already streamed it, then it's probably after Tuesday. And that's about all I got to say on that. With that, let's go ahead and move on to... Let's talk about Genshin Impact. What the heck is Genshin Impact? What the heck is Genshin Impact? I know words. What the heck is Genshin Impact?
Well, Genshin Impact is a world game, sorry. Joke just blew up right in my face there. So, anyway, Genshin Impact is a game developed by MiHoYo, which is a high-profile 3D action gacha game.
Okay.
High profile with indeed areas and an art style that's reminiscent of Breath of the Wild in particular. It's been compared to.
Okay.
High production values, very detailed characters, and you get entire movesets whenever you get a new one. Lots of stuff to do, still a sort of stamina system, but only for specific events and farmable dungeons. And it seems like it's nice and appealing enough that a lot of eyes of people that generally aren't into gacha game are looking towards this game.
Interesting. Okay.
And indeed, as Geisterfuchs point out, it's also cross-platform between Android, iOS, PS4, and PC.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential there, I feel, and so it's pretty highly regarded, and the launch as time of recording should be in 35 minutes.
Nice.
So we'll wait with the news so hot they aren't out of the oven yet. But yeah, it's interesting in many respects. In particular, the aspect of the game being one that will try to speak to people that aren't generally the main gacha clientele feels very important for them, and as a way to maybe spread the idea, hopefully among developer studios, that all of those games don't necessarily have to be that derivative, and that they can work with a gacha-like economy while having an engaging gameplay in itself. That's the hope. Maybe they will dash it and trample on it. I don't know yet.
I will say for the record that I honestly feel like Arknights has very good gameplay, and that is clearly not secondary, but I mean, that's obviously just an opinion and not.
At the same time, it does have a graphic art style and a perspective that lends itself to a very insular sort of people that don't mind playing with pretty pictures that are represented in-game by smaller cutesy sprites, which is something we kind of take for granted, that can, I believe, turn away people instantly. While, again, Genshin Impact does look like Breath of the Wild-like, which is different in itself.
Okay.
And for the record, I do absolutely believe that we can have a good game with a level of polish that is this high and with gacha mechanics, because I've played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and that it had all of these things. The only thing it didn't have is a gacha economy.
Right, because you couldn't actually buy the gacha parts. They were just random drops.
Exactly.
Right.
You could farm them, but you couldn't just get them.
Got it.
Now, given the high-profile launch of this game and the fact that I couldn't even recuperate easily the executable for the launcher, because the site crashed when I tried to, there's a high chance, I'd say, that the launch is going to be a bit bumpy. I fully expect that.
Okay, bumpy, how do you say?
I think there's going to be a lot of client disconnections.
Fun.
Again, a lot of eyes are on it, and I had to go through mirrors to actually get the executable in the end.
Wow.
Download went smoothly because they did offer a pre-download version, given that the game is 11 gigs. On PC anyway.
Wow.
Yeah. And there was also a bit of launch controversy about comments they have said. I don't have the exact sources, but that basically reflected a certain hostility to the very idea of rerolls.
Yeah, I've heard this.
Yeah. So I don't know if they actually said at some point specifically that they're going to ban people that reroll. That's the worry for some people. I know I wouldn't use a disposable mail address to create my account, because that's a very real risk they're going to act against that. And the reason, however, I'm not going to reroll is mostly because I've seen some videos, and apparently the reroll process, if you do things optimally, takes over 17 minutes.
Ugh!
So not like Sino Alice, which
very much
was
the opposite
very
of Sino
easy to
Alice.
reroll.
Okay, so let me go back a step here. What is there an actual benefit to rerolling? Like, what are you actually rolling on in this game?
You roll for banners that gives you a mix of weapons and characters with different levels of rarity.
Okay, and I'm assuming...
when you go through the world, you control a party of 4 characters you can switch between, each having their weapon type and their element. So there are parts of the gameplay that are very reminiscent of the usual gacha fare.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have been sent a screenshot of a post regarding the rerolling. Thank you guys of Fox for this. Question 8. What is MiHoYo's stance on rerolling? There is a chance of action being taken against you, as it's generally not allowed due to susceptible exploitation. Though for most travelers this shouldn't be a problem, since it could be assumed that the majority would not roll so many accounts to flag themselves. However, if you are caught in the crossfire with account sellers/traders, please contact Genshin for appeal. So
it sounds like they're kind of okay with rerolls. They're just trying not to overload their servers, which makes sense.
Yeah, but there's also the whole account sellers/traders part, which is a bit besides the point, and there could be some translations uncertainty, since I believe that's a automatically translated FAQ. But overall, I still would tread very carefully in that part. And if you go through the game a few days and don't get the units you want, even after your first few rolls, you might want to start again. The thing they seem to imply is that if you restart the game a couple of times, you shouldn't have a problem. If you try to multi-box and run 17 instances of the game at the time to pick the best one, you might have trouble.
Yeah, that seems problematic.
Seems like it. So no extensive re-rolling with, emulators definitely seems to be off the table.
Yeah, I suppose, though you probably don't need emulators since there's
That's
a
true.
PC client.
Since there's a PC,
right.
That's true. I'm just so used to gachas being on mobile that, it's...
Oh yeah, no, I get
it. Is this the same? I know the Impact. Is this the same as Honkai Impact Third? Same group of people? Because I feel like I've heard that before.
Yeah, same developers.
Yeah, that also had a PC release.
Yeah. The games aren't linked as tightly because they want Genshin Impact to be playable by people who haven't played their previous game.
Like me.
Which is a very understandable move.
Of course. Yep.
Yeah. And, basically, if you don't get what you want for the first walls, what I've seen, I haven't looked that deep into it, but you have some party members that are given through quests you get through in the early game, and so you can do the puzzle dungeons that require specific elements even without pulling any unit at all. So at least you won't be hard-locked, which would have been a problem. Anyway, I don't really have much more information. I think the main takeaway here is that I will keep a close eye on the game. I'll play it, especially if my computer allows it. It's not guaranteed. The system requirements are pretty high. Menus seem to work fine, but you never know once you actually throw in the world.
Yep.
Right.
And you will have on next episode likely a report. And if I can't do it, I will forcibly drag someone who plays it.
I'm probably going to play it, I gotta be honest. If it's an action game, as opposed to, this sort of thing, I could see myself playing it.
Yeah. And that's it for Genshin Impact this episode.
Perfect.
What do we want to move to?
Well, what we want to move to is something that gonna have to move to anyway. So, recently Tokyo Game Show, Koei announced 2 new Dynasty Warriors games on top of Hyrule Warriors 2 Age of Calamity. First is
Which I'm very looking forward to, and it comes out on my birthday, no less.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that was your birthday.
Excited.
That is amazing.
But that's not the gacha one.
No, the gacha one is the other one. Well, the first is Dynasty Warriors 9 Mobile. Rephrase.
9 Empires.
First is Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires, which, shrug.
I mean, the weirdest part is that they won't have an open world for the Empires, which leads itself better to the open world than the normal Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of any of that, to be perfectly honest.
It's confusing.
Confusing things are confusing.
Yes, they are. The next one they announced made me almost instantly rage, because of course they were doing this. Why wouldn't they do this? Dynasty Warriors Mobile is a thing that's happening. Oh god, send help.
Yep.
They've done Dynasty Warriors on mobile before. Like we've had the Vita one, which is I think not Strike Force. Something else.
I believe there were the 2 Strike Force indeed.
There were the 2 Strike Force, but there was also another one on the Vita, Dynasty Warriors.
There even was a Dynasty Warriors on the DS.
There was a couple. The only one I played on the DS was the first Hyrule Warriors, but yes.
No, that was on the 3DS. I do mean the first DS.
I'm sure
it plays from a top-down view.
I'm sure there was.
Good. Maybe it was even GBA, but no matter.
A top-down view Dynasty Warriors on GBA? What? Maybe? Okay, sure.
They've released some weird stuff.
They have. Yep,
can confirm Dynasty Warriors Advance is a game that exists.
Huh. I didn't know that. This is not relevant, but it's good information for me.
Yeah.
So we ended up with the wonderfully terrifying Dynasty Warriors Mobile.
And they're not even calling it that. They're calling it Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, just Dynasty Warriors, period.
Shin Sangoku Musou in Japan.
Sure.
And the only thing I know about it is that the story is going to be kind of a crossover thing between the different eras and the likes.
Okay. Well, I know the costuming seemed to be based on Dynasty Warriors 8, which was, arguably the best one for gameplay.
Absolutely. And as far as the crossover goes, if only they already had a crossover game placed in the Dynasty Warriors series.
Yeah, or, 4 of them. Plus expansions.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, in Japan there's 3 of them, and Warriors of Ochi 2
was actually Rebirth of the Demon King, which was the expansion of the first one. Yeah,
yes.
I'm aware of that, but I didn't play the Japanese version. I just played this one.
Yeah, they just had to make it so the numbers aren't the same again.
Again, yeah. That. It is what it is.
But yeah, I haven't really looked that much into other information. Do we know anything about the gameplay?
I watched the gameplay, and it looks like a carbon copy of Dynasty Warriors 8 on mobile controls with there's some kind of co-op thing going on, because I saw the link mechanic from Dynasty Warriors 5.
Huh.
So
well, at least it's action-based.
It is action-based. It is not an RPG. It is actually... It looked kind of like a Dynasty Warriors game. I could see Cao Pi just smacking something with swords a lot, but unfortunately, it doesn't really tell me much about what I was looking at.
Hopefully it's good.
Hopefully it's good. That's a big hopefully, but hopefully it's good.
If it's not, then we don't have to play it.
Correct.
Yeah, and on release it will be a thing. What I'm especially curious about is how it will evolve over the months after the launch. Because trying to nail the gameplay style is a thing. Trying to nail the way the game will live on and continue, whether they're going to monetize characters or weapons or just cosmetics.
I mean, with if they're doing a crossover thing, they're almost definitely going to monetize. They're almost definitely going to monetize characters, right? They kind of have to.
Yeah, and that's a bit of an issue because with so many characters in Dynasty Warriors, we all have our favorites.
Yeah, like will I be wailing for Shahodun? Like, how is this going to work?
Yeah, and having your favorite, even if you're not waiting for them, having them being relegated at the rank of the 3-star base or the free-to-play option is definitely something that's going to be iffy.
Yeah, and then there's the question of movesets, because you have people who change movesets, like God Ning seems to have a different moveset every game. Which moveset is he going to get? Is there going to be different versions of God Ning? What's going to be the rarity of each God Ning moveset?
Yeah, that's a thing.
It's a thing.
They have... I think the main worry is that they're stepping on a minefield and they have so many ways to make it explode in their dumb faces.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And that's one of the reasons I'm so scared, because this is just not... Like, the Empire series is closer to what you'd expect of a gacha series than just about anything.
Oh, I've just seen something that I really don't like. Looking at Google Pictures, I'm seeing Dynasty Warriors mobile gameplay with very, very high damage numbers on random Moog soldiers.
Yeah, I did see that.
Which does seem to imply some sort of stat grind. Now, that's named as Dynasty Warriors Unleashed, so maybe that's a previous mobile game?
I don't know if it's mobile. I think I remember Unleashed. That name sounds weirdly familiar.
Then that may be a false alarm. And we in Gathering of Gachas try to pride ourselves with our accuracy.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that, I'm afraid. That sounds familiar, and I don't think that was the name of the game that was announced here.
Yeah, I heard it was just called Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, I've been hearing it on Gamatsu and whatnot as Dynasty Warriors Mobile. Like, that's the phrasing they've been using, but, I mean, that could just be a shorthand to, save headache.
Oh, yeah, let's hope they don't do a dumb. But they have so many ways to do a dumb.
They have so many ways to do that wrong.
We like our Warriors game here.
I do like my Warriors games. I'm really looking forward to Age of Calamity, and I gotta be honest, I may actually try out 9 Empires, even though I didn't think much of 8 Empires. That was when they first changed Wang Yi, and that was not a change I liked. What? I really liked your Trachula moveset. The MA Piercers just aren't as fun.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. As we've said, we each have our pet characters.
Yeah.
And pet movesets.
Yeah, exactly. Which actually kind of makes me hope that, like, it almost works like... There's a part of me that prays that if they're going to do a character-based thing that works like Sino Alice, and it's based on the weapon, and you just get high-version weapons.
Yeah, or that you can get an initial gacha that works like Tales of Custodia, where you can pick your pet unit.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'd be good with that. I'd main somebody.
So they have ways to make it decent.
Yes. Unfortunately, those ways are risky on account that, Dynasty Warriors is this gigantic franchise, at least in terms of numbers of everything they have, and I don't know how many different Warriors games they're going to be drawing from.
Yeah.
We can only wait and see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm scared of this one. I'm scared of any time they try to turn a game like this into a gacha. I mentioned this in no small part back when we briefly brought up the Sengoku Basara gacha, which I haven't heard anything about.
Me neither.
So, filing all this under who knows.
Indeed.
Hopefully it turns out to be good. I have my doubts, obviously. But as always, we will find out.
Indeed we shall.
Yes, we will. Especially if it does have a Western release. I don't think that was confirmed yet.
That was not, but neither is Dynasty Warriors 9 Empires, so.
Which makes sense because it was TGS.
Yes. So, it wouldn't surprise me. So far, the only Koei game we know, the only Warriors game we know is coming out west is Age of Calamity, which has a November release date. We know this for a fact, so.
Indeed.
I actually confirmed that with, I tried to confirm that with a friend of mine who works at Nintendo, and he said he couldn't talk about it, and I just went to their site, and they're like, hey, here's our ESRB rating. Okay, they're good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's the one I'm looking forward to the most by far.
Oh, yeah.
So, all good.
Oh, yeah.
And over here,
right.
I've never played any Dynasty Warriors games, so
Yeah,
My
I know.
only worry was that because Breath of the Wild is an open world game, they could have made Age of Calamity open world Dynasty Warriors 9-ish, but we know now that this is not the case. So from that point on, it's all good. I'm willing to trust them on the basis that Hyrule Warriors was excellent.
Yeah, Hyrule Warriors is among my favorite Warriors games of all time, so we're not talking about gachas right now. We've got to get back on the point.
Hey, I'm just waiting for you to pass it back to me for War of the Visions.
Fine, War of the Visions, go!
Okay, Elvira, go! We've talked about Elvira last episode, and I did get her, but I didn't use her at the time, and I think that there's one very strong point for her that I didn't talk about because I didn't know about it.
Okay.
So she's a mage, but that works kind of specially with the whole height or level dependency.
Right.
But there's another thing that's unique about her with her magic, and it's that every single one of her level or height-based spells are instacast.
Oh.
So, yeah. So that's an excellent utility in that regard, because instacast magic is pretty rare, and I feel like I should clarify that now that I actually know this. So, Elvira, pretty good, leveling her steadily, not going full ham, but investing what resources I have. Now I have her at level 79, which means that I can use her and have all of her skills, and that's pretty good.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. So, and I can get her LB beyond that slowly over the course of the days because she's not limited.
Right.
And I will rub it in every single possible phase because I like this and I still think limited units are a gamble.
I do agree with that.
Yeah. Now then, to move on to what came to us in the last 2 weeks. Well, first we had something incredibly exciting, and a Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles collab. Yay! There's 2 vision cards. Boo!
Boo!
Now, amongst the 2 vision cards in question, one is interesting because, well, first, you get it for free, guaranteed.
Okay.
And it increases the job points you get for the units that has it equipped, which is pretty nice. So the only other effect we've had like that was a crystal card that gives that effect to the entire party, but that you can only get by purchasing a special bundle. So it's pay locked behind $8. So now you get a free option from one character. That's something at least.
Yeah.
And the other is mostly for fire elemental parties, which aren't really a thing right now.
Okay, why not? Because fire good usually, so I'm not really sure why fire bad in this instance.
Well, fire bad because we don't really have enough good fire units to have a full party yet.
Got it. It's the Gachas' fault. Okay.
Yeah. Like right now we have Ulda, we have Rain, and we have Delita.
Okay.
That's it for the UR. We even miss a unit because there was one additional fire unit in JP, which was the Christmas version of Machery. And for this one, they decided not to fire up the Christmas event in August.
Yeah, they're willing to do that in Arknights, but it seems they're much less willing to do that in...
No, they're willing to do that. It's just that they drew the line at Christmas units in the middle of summer.
Yeah,
apparently.
I guess I understand that. I don't know. Christmas in July is a trope, but still.
Yes. So... Just getting back to the production order. Right. So then, parallel to the Christian Chronicles 2 cards, we had another thing that is incredibly exciting with rewards and the greatest pieces of equipment we can get. It's a raid.
Okay.
And it's still bad, because raids are just kind of a boring, interrupting grind, and this didn't really change anything about it.
Great. Well...
So it's just a big beefy Ifrit, and the worst part, it was released along with the Ildira banner.
Okay.
Or right after that. And it's fire elemental, it's weak to water, so far so good. The area you fight this boss is a plateau that is height 5, meaning that all of your height-based spells cannot work at their best, because they could work at height 4, 3, or 2, or 6, but not 5.
Oh, not a prime number. Oof. Oof.
Not a number dividable by 5, and Ildira doesn't have that in her repertoire.
Oof. That's a shame.
Yeah, it's just a little thing, but honestly, I'm not even too mad about it in all seriousness, because I do have some issues with hard trial, specifically tailors for the latest and freshest unit.
Yeah,
but still, that deserves mention. Speaking of the latest and freshest unit, let's talk about Knight of Destruction Stern. It's our first unit that gets an alternative version now.
Okay.
And this one is all beefy and angry and covered in armor that amplifies and feeds off this anger, and makes him a very strong DPS.
Okay.
Which I wouldn't recommend going after for one specific reason. Turns out they finally clarified their messaging about these units. They're calling it cost 100 unit.
Cost 100?
They have a cost value before all of the units, and it's mostly irrelevant gibberish. But apparently this decides things like how back in the days there was one MR unit that was rarer than the other, Salir, I believe. And there were the 3 units which were Tancred, Gilgamesh, and now Knight of Destruction Stern, that cost double shards.
Double shards?
Yeah. Have the chance to pull for him, and double the shard costs to... double the lapis cost to buy his shards to unlock him, and also you can only do the shard mission once a day instead of twice a day. So same as Gilgamesh.
So this sounds awful.
Yeah, that doesn't sound great at all. It is. Why is that a design decision?
I don't know, especially given that he is fine, and he's a great way to complete one of the highest ceiling strategies, which is the full Dark Elemental slashing party.
Okay.
Because that's one thing for which there are enough elements to make it work. since you have now Stern, Knight of Destruction Stern, Vinera, Whisper, and then either you go one less slashing unit for more support and you bring Shiza, or you just bring Gafgarian or Shadowlings. You even have options in this build.
Okay.
And you have even Espers that facilitate it. It's something that can happen and that can be better with him. But again, I've said you have options, so instead of having him, you could have both Gafgarian and Shadowlings. So it's a bit limiting to have him be double the cost, but at least he doesn't think like he is head and shoulders above everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
He is part of a common group of units. He is very good, but so is Orlando, so is Agrias,
right.
So is Vinera, and a lot of units.
Right.
So if you really, really like Angry Boy Stern, you can go after him, but wouldn't recommend it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Along with him, we do have another event. We've briefly brushed on it last time, the Trials of Reckoning.
Okay. What is the Trials of Reckoning?
It sounded like Dark Visions.
Oh, right. Not Dark Visions. Okay, I remember this now.
Yeah. But actually, having played it a little, it feels like a really good event. I've really liked what I've played. So how it works is that you have stages, 5 normal difficulty stages and 5 hard difficulty stages. You progress through them, you have your mission to do, and you also have a high score. That's the kind of Dark Vision-ish part. You get higher scores by performing things like high chains, low actions, bringing... not bringing a companion, I think, is a possibility, but I'm not sure. But if you are a relatively new player, it does mean you can bring a companion, which can help you through the stages. So while it does have pretty difficult final stages, it also is accessible this way. Throughout these stages, you get some rewards that are specific to this event, on top of some materials. And some of these rewards are skip tickets. So you do have to farm on both highest individual stage score tracks and total accumulated score tracks, and you can use your skip tickets to expedite part of the farm. Which is good, that's respectful of your time. If you want to get more points but don't have the AOL time to invest, you can just burn your stamina this way. You do have some limitations, of course, because your score won't be as high as if you play the stage yourself, and more so if you play the stage good.
Right.
And the 2 harder stages, which are of course the most rewarding, have a limit of 3 clears a day. Which I actually like, because that means that if you don't have that much time, if you don't want to burn that much stamina, you can just tell yourself, I'll clear these 2 stages 3 times each, and get a fair amount of points this way. So overall, that's pretty well built. Basically the opposite of the raid, because everything seems to make sense and go together nicely. And then, another rewards you get from the clear stages, the high score and so on, is boss tickets.
Okay,
and
boss
for
tickets.
20 or 30 boss tickets, you can face the normal or hard version of the boss, here the 2-headed dragon.
Oh, okay.
And so that's an additional sort of stage that you have only a limited number of entry for, which depend on your normal and hard stage clears, and that gives you a higher burst of rewards. But the hard boss is also pretty damn hard. However, the boss HP carries over from one attempt to the next. So if you can't even clear the boss, which can happen, especially given that the boss has AoE counters. So even if you completely lock him, you can still get hit in the face repeatedly. But if you can clear in one go, you can burn more of your tickets and get it in 1, 2, 3 attempts. And overall, I really like the flow of this event. It meshes nicely. It has several different paths to progressions. There's a bit of a interplayer competition in the ranking, but it's not that cutthroat that you won't have a chance to get anything good unless you go extra hardcore.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good event.
Okay. That's good. Well balanced, fun, interesting stuff.
And the main reward is none other than a Final Fantasy staple, the ribbon.
Oh, we like those.
Yeah, but it isn't necessarily the ribbons you would hope for. It's good. It's an accessory with some good HP and can have some good evade, especially if you level it up fully. But as far as status resistances go, it only helps against stop and slow, not against all ailments. So that's a bit of a cheap ribbon.
Okay. Yeah, that's not really a ribbon. That's something called a ribbon that is totally not a ribbon.
Yeah. Lastly, we did have some rewards, gifts, and goodies that were thrown our way profusely because it's the 6-month anniversary of the game.
Oh, wow. It still kind of shocks me this game has been out this long.
Yeah, they did a lot of countdowns, some of it underwhelming. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. You know, last time I talked about this summon that was daily and charge a gauge, but you couldn't charge it fully unless you paid to get more of those tickets. They did it 2 weeks in a row.
Great.
Which, and don't get me wrong, they didn't go, this event actually lasts 2 weeks, so so you can actually get the gauge fully charged. No, it's here's something for 1 week, and here's something else with similar mechanics, with a similar gauge and similar conditions, but also lasts for 1 week.
That sucks.
Yes. But the rewards we got for the actual 6th anniversary are pretty good, including tons of super sites for your Esper, some 80 million gills. That's not an exaggeration.
That's a lot.
That's literally 80 million gills. Yeah, that's a lot, and I've basically reached the point where I'm again more limited by JP than gills when it comes to leveling up each unit skills. We also have a free daily pool all week long, which is an actual 10 pool with an actual unit or vision card that is maximum rarity guaranteed. They're even doing it so that there's a bit of control in that you have each day a guaranteed unit or guaranteed vision card. The funny thing about it is that we're at our 2nd guaranteed vision card and 3rd guaranteed unit, and all 3 of my units were Frederica's. I'm not complaining because I'm leveling Frederica up and pretty fast since her shards are in the friend shop.
Okay.
But the chances of getting the same unit 3 times in a row are pretty low. So that's pretty funny. So yeah, actually good rewards. I'm all for it.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm not hearing anything I dislike.
And I like the ability to conclude talking about World of Visions on a positive note.
Yeah, that does feel good. We've spent a lot of time kvetching about stuff, and it's good to not have to do that for a moment.
Yeah, this game is so chaotic about when it decides to be terrible and when it decides to be great. It's an important learn back, and they've nailed it this time. Good. Keep on doing this kind of game.
Yeah, it would be nice if they continue doing things that, are not just like super money grabbing and stuff.
Always good.
Appreciate it.
When, yeah.
Now, on these worlds, I think we've covered all that we've wanted to cover, and that Genshin Impact is launching.
And that is all the time we have for this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will be back next week with more of the games you love to hate, and hopefully a full report on Genshin Impact and Children of Ursus.
Sounds like a plan. Have a good one, guys.
Have a good one, y'all.
I am logging in as we speak. Wish me luck.
Good luck,
Rana.